Hi there. So in this video, I wanted to briefly go over the upcoming projects in the class, give you some tips on how to get started with these, and the due dates are on the calendar or the checklist, but I'm over here on materials, content, and then assignment instructions. So I've uploaded instructions for each of these assignments, and the way they work is they're all combined, or they all tie into the same project, which is one of those for dummies or complete idiots guides, one of those guidebooks. And it's up to you to pick the topic. I encourage you to go to the For Dummies website, take a look at some of the other ones that are there. I think it's more fun to do something a little more local. So I have students that'll do things like ice fishing in Minnesota. I've had hunting ones. I've had lots of arts and crafts books, different kinds of games, video games or board games are usually pretty good. You can think about a strategy guide. So basically anything you could expand. It has to be a topic big enough to cover a whole book, but pretty much anything is fair game here. All right, so the first step is to propose the book, and then there's a PowerPoint presentation that goes along with the book proposal, and then that's followed by a couple of sample chapters. So I have the due dates spread out for these, so they'll have their own rough draft, peer review, final draft phase. And you're not writing the entire book, just a couple of chapters, and that's what this is. And then the last thing is a video tutorial, which is kind of a double project, because on the one hand, you're demonstrating something from the book, sort of a how-to video, tutorial video. And it also helps, it's kind of a marketing thing too. So you're telling people about the book, asking them to buy it, and so on and so forth. So let's take a quick look here at this book proposal instructions. So you can read all this. I'm not going to sit here and read all this to you, but you can certainly read it and ask any questions you have here on D2L, or you come by the office or email me if you have questions. But it's relatively straightforward. So one of the things I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but you can do all of these projects either by yourself or with a group. You could pair up with one person, or you could have two people, or up to three people basically. And then I'll give you some bonus points per team member if you do that, because it usually is a little tougher to work with a group. So I try to give you some bonus points to offset that. But I do encourage it. I think it's a good experience. It makes it in some ways a lot easier. If you do want to do this, you need to set up your own group, though. That you can go to the discussion board here at D2L and find people that way. Is what most people do. Okay, then the actual proposal will have a couple of sections to it, or 5 or 6 sections you can see here. The first is the cover letter, and I would save that for last. We'll come back to it later because it makes more sense to do this other stuff first. The main part is this general description of the book. So we've got some background information on the subject, and just assume the publisher isn't familiar with it. So if you've got ice fishing in Minnesota, tell them what ice fishing is, and why are people doing this in Minnesota? How many people do it, etc. What kind of equipment do you need? I mean, don't go into great detail, but just enough to give the publisher kind of a good idea of what it is you're proposing here. The themes of the book, this is, again, up to you what kind of theme you want. Are you doing kind of a family-friendly, fun for the family theme? Ice fishing, maybe you've got this ecological theme instead, or maybe you want to have 2 or 3 different themes. That's up to you. And again, if you're not sure what a theme is, just I'll say this a couple times here, but it's really helpful to get on Amazon and do a search for, say, ice fishing in Minnesota, or just ice fishing. And you can see there's all kinds of books on it, but they won't be identical. They'll have slightly different themes, and sometimes way different. The content and style, so just some quick words there, maybe a couple sentences about how in-depth you're going to go, and is it going to be formal or informal, casual style? What do you think is appropriate given your theme and your topic? The estimated length of the book, which would probably be something like 200 pages for most people. Numbers and types of figures. So this is going to really depend on the topic again. If you're doing ice fishing, you'd probably have lots of pictures in there, photos, maybe of fish, equipment, and so on. You probably wouldn't have a lot of tables. I guess you might have a table in there about the different ponds and lakes and some stats about each one, something like that. But if your topic was, let's pick something else. So if you're doing a game guide, strategy guide for a video game, you probably wouldn't have a lot of photos. You'd have screenshots and tables instead. So again, just think about your topic, what makes sense, and it's just an estimate. You could say you might have 2 or 3 pictures per chapter or whatever. The ideas for layouts. So I want you to go beyond just a standard words on words on paper. So think about something more innovative, maybe chapter objectives that goes in front of each chapter, or maybe trivia sections or factoids, fun facts, little sidebars like that. Those are always handy. And again, if you don't know what that is, just flip through a textbook and you'll see that they very seldom just have straight up paragraphs. They usually have some other features. And then the organization there. And for this part, remember, we're still here in this first section. So you don't need to rattle off every chapter. Just say I want to have 15 chapters or 20 chapters with about 5 pages per chapter. That's really what I'm looking for there. Okay, so that's the first section. The other one is market overview, just a couple pages about who are you writing for, who's the primary audience, who do you think would be most likely to buy the book. And that's the primary audience, and you need to find some way to estimate the number. So you could probably get on the Department of Wildlife Management or whatever it is here in Minnesota and figure out how many people fish. That might be a way to get at that number. Magazines, maybe you could look at Wikipedia, but try to figure out some way, some estimate as to how many people there are that would be interested in that topic. The game guides are pretty easy. You could just get on Steam or whatever the video game service is and see how many people have bought the game or how many people are playing it, etc. That would give you some numbers to use there. Secondary audiences are people that they might still be interested in the book, even though they're not, again, the people you're writing it for necessarily. So a good example of that would be this. If you have a book for kids about ice fishing, it's possible that parents might be interested in that topic as well. The competition section. This is relatively easy to do. Just jump on Amazon, go to the search bar, type in the topic, ice fishing guide, for example, and try to get a feel for what's out there. What are these other books like? Do they have good reviews, bad reviews? I like to see this broken down. So say the top 3 or top 5 books, preferably the 5 books that are most similar to yours, and just talk a little bit about, talk a little bit about each one. What's its content like? Is it in depth? Is it brief, etc.? What are the reviewers saying about them? Is it mostly positive, negative? If there's something that they don't like, what is it? Who are the authors of the books, etc. So it's just kind of little summaries of these other books out there. And then, of course, you want to talk about how your book will be different than those, or hopefully better. Then you have an About the Authors page, and that's just a page, maybe a paragraph about you and your expertise on the topic, why you're interested in this. And then we do have a chapter-by-chapter summary. So this is where you're going through the book. And most of these For Dummies books will have, say, 15 chapters. So try to think about how you could break the topic of ice fishing in Minnesota into 15 chapters. And then say a couple sentences about each chapter, what will be in it, how many pages will it be. You don't necessarily need to have every chapter be the exact same length, right? So just estimate all that, and that'll be good for your summary of chapters. And then finally, just a quick statement there about your schedule. So you could say, 6 months, I'll have it halfway done, and then I'll have it completely finished in time for the season to open. a couple of years from now, or whatever it is. Just again, think about the topic. It wouldn't this would be really pressing, and I ding students a couple of points sometimes if they're doing game guides, and they say that the book won't be out for 2 years. You don't even know if people will still be playing that video game then. So for those, they have to be a lot tighter of a schedule. But for ice fishing, it seems like that would be, you could say that's going to take you 2 or 3 years to do. It's fine. Tips and suggestions. I'll let you read those on your own. You can certainly get on wikihow.com and see their guides. Of course, you have a textbook. You can look at what they say about proposals. It's all pretty much the same stuff. I have the official guidelines there for the Complete Idiot's Guides. So I like this one because it's very specific and will give you some pretty good tips for if you're kind of stuck as to what to put in these sections here. Okay, I think that'll do it for the proposal. And then the next step after that will be a PowerPoint that basically summarizes your proposal. So you'll kind of assume you're at a publishing conference and the publishers are there, and you'll be basically pitching your proposal, right? So that's what that is. The next step will be writing out 2 sample chapters and have different due dates for your first one and your second one. It doesn't matter. You could pick chapter 2, 3, 5, and 7, whatever chapters you want to do. They don't necessarily have to be in order, just whatever it is you think would be the best for your sample chapters, whatever you want to do, basically. And that we'll do that. There's 2 of those, basically. And then the end is the video tutorial where you take some aspect or some process from the book. So the ice fishing one, you might have a video about how to set up your ice fishing hole, how to drill the hole, let's say, or how to get the boat into the truck out, how to drive the truck out onto the lake. I'm just kind of making stuff up. But you could take anything like that, within reason, something you could go out and make a video of. And I do have some samples there, sample projects where you can see some other videos that students have done. But I'll talk more about those as we get it a little closer to the due dates on them. But if you want, you can go ahead and take a look now, see what the instructions look like to get a feel for what the expectations are. Okay, anyway, I don't want to go on for too long here. So if you have questions, you can certainly post those here on D2L. But for now, I would just be thinking about this book proposal. Maybe go to the For Dummies website, the Complete Idiots website, see what kind of books are out there, see if you can get some ideas. Maybe go to the discussion board and chat with people, some classmates there, see what other people are thinking about. Or, of course, you can just talk to me. Anyway, that'll do it for now. Do let me know if you have any questions, and good luck.